Welcome back. Let's catch you up on a few stories that should be on your radar today. It's Rapid Fire. And here to break down the headlines are Robert Frank, Kate Rogers, and John Fort. John Fort, this is
in the house.
It's been a while.
Yeah, it's been a while.
Like a round of applause. Yeah, very exciting. But we're going to talk some retail first. Lauren Hirsch ought to get over here and take a victory lap, lady. L Brands is selling its Victoria's Secret franchise to Sycamore Partners in a deal she told us about, come on down, valuing the retailer at $1.1 billion. Shares of L Brands are now higher on the day after they opened lower. You broke the story last week. We talked about it a little bit. Any interesting sort of takeaways from the completed deal now?
Yeah, the really interesting thing, I think, both to me and to investors was that it wasn't a full acquisition. It was a majority stake. And I think a lot of people were expecting a full acquisition, which is probably why we saw the shares fall. I spoke to advisors on it. I got some inside source. It sounds like there was a lot of concern that shares of L Brands have fallen so much over the past few years that to sell the whole company now, it's kind of a tough pill to swallow. So the pitch to investors is have faith that Sycamore can turn things around in Victoria's Secret, and you can kind of ride it on the upside.
Because we were going to say, should we call it L Brand if it's down to just Bath and Body Works? But I guess it does retain some exposure to Victoria's Secret, maybe on the upside.
Exactly, that's the goal.
What do you guys think?
But that also speaks to how cheap it was. I mean, I think even when your article broke, which was great, I think everyone was thinking, including analysts, about a much higher valuation than $1.1 billion. Think about Lululemon, which has half the sales and is valued at $34 billion. Wow. And it's just, I just think people didn't think it was going to go that cheaply, and that just shows how far it's fallen.
It does, but I will say I've spoken to a number of private equity sponsors about the deal. It is kind of within the realm of other sponsor interests. So I think maybe analysts were overestimating its value.
But can it be turned around, right? I mean, like, it's really fallen behind the times. Its advertising doesn't seem to resonate with young women anymore. And some of the brands that Sycamore has bought up also haven't really done that well. So what's the plan here, and is it able to come to fruition? I think will be really interesting for people to watch.
It's a great question, and I don't know that, frankly, anyone has the answer, and I haven't gotten the answer yet. What I can tell you is, and I mentioned this last time, Sycamore is known for kind of getting down and dirty. That's their shtick, and Victoria's Secret, L Brands, Les Wexner has long had majority stake. The board has long been very insular, and so many people believe it hasn't been run efficiently. So whether or not they can turn it around, that's one question. But their ability to cut costs, make it more efficient, there's probably room to go there.
Are they going to get rid of him?
He's stepping down, as CEO. And he's staying on the board, but he's stepping down as CEO and chairman.
They should bring back swimwear. That's the only thing I ever got from
They
Victoria's
canceled the
Secret.
fashion show. Like, to me, that was like the biggest cultural, we don't want this anymore, when the fashion show was a no-go anymore.
But an acknowledgement of how much things have changed.
And how non-inclusive it's become.
Right. That's why my favorite research note a couple weeks ago was the firm that called Nike the new Victoria's Secret, basically saying that's where the sexy is today. You know, it's inclusive. They had this show with like 100 different body types and people in it, and we all know athleisure is. I mean, you can't even actually work out in athleisure these days. Let's be serious.
It's
sequined.
To be honest,
Sequins, pearls, rubber, it's everything. It's crazy.
Lauren, thank you. Lauren
Thanks
Hirsch.
for having me.
We appreciate it. Next up, look at shares of Domino's today, which are soaring to an all-time high after their profit and same-store sales in the U.S. beat expectations. The stock is up about 25% right now, on pace for its best day ever. So my question, Kate, is what does this tell us? Because they are the original delivery model. Their own employees, they are not using third-party, delivery companies. Is this a sort of a saying to them, that's working for you pretty well?
This is such an important quarter. They haven't beat on U.S. same-store sales in more than a year. As you said, they don't partner up with aggregators. So while we've all been wondering who's going to be the last man left standing between DoorDash and Postmates and Uber Eats, Domino's has kind of kept its head down, stuck with the plan. The stock had taken a hit over the last year, but I mean, look at this. It's up, with these huge gains today. I think investors are really confident in the plan. They talked a lot about fortressing, which is their strategy of opening up more stores closer together, shorten your delivery times. They said that's been really profitable for drivers and franchisees. He also talked about aggregators on the call, said there's a circular firing squad going on right now between all of these aggregators. We may catch a few stray bullets. We don't know what consumer behaviors will be like in 2020, but they maintained their guidance. And I think that was really important for investors too.
John, if you're Uber Eats, how does this make you feel?
If you're Uber Eats, if you're Postmates, if you're DoorDash, I mean, I think Domino's is kind of a unique play, though, because it's pizza, it's delivered pizza. How much can they expand outside that? We'll see. I mean, there's wings, there's other things that people get, but Domino's is in this unique position of sort of being the Apple of food delivery, right? They're vertically integrated. They can iterate quickly with new product, and as you mentioned, command their employees in a certain way. But I'm not sure they're going to be able to have the full Apple effect. Apple charges a premium. It's a premium product. Pizza's pizza. I doubt we're going to see $100.
Pizza is not just pizza, okay, John Ford?
But are we going to see $100 pizza, right?
Yeah.
That everybody's going to
Here's what
the Apple of pizzas?
Here's where I knew Domino was going to be huge. So I live in Manhattan, which has really good pizza, right? My daughter loves Domino's pizza. Of all the pizza you can get in Manhattan, so this is all we get now is Domino's thin crust, which is, by the way, more expensive than most pizza you can get in Manhattan, and she loves it. That's all she wants. So if I could buy stocks, I would buy the stock.
They were way ahead of the curve too, in telling you when the pizza was going to come.
GPS
Technology, absolutely.
People love it, and robots on the way. They talked about this test that they have with the Neuro robot, which we interviewed Rich Allison about over the summer. They're getting closer to regulatory approval for that. He's going to see the test himself in Houston soon, so don't forget about that. And when we talk about technology and all the things that Domino's has,
and proving this can work in the post-Patrick Doyle area, which has also been a big question.
Big shoes to fill.
Be sure to tune in to Mad Money tonight at 6 p.m. Eastern for Jim Cramer's exclusive interview with Rich Allison, the CEO of Domino's. They will have much, much more about that. Topic 3, any minute now, Oracle employees are planning to walk off the job, at least some of them, who are upset that the company's founder and chief executive, Larry Ellison, held a fundraiser for President Trump. John, it's sort of a classic Silicon Valley story in the sense that it's like, okay, you know, the culture of the employees there tends to be quite progressive. It's creating all of these skirmishes. If there happens to be a founder,
we'll see. We'll see how many people show up to this protest.
Right, but how serious a protest is this, and what is their specific beef with?
I'm going to be surprised if it's that serious because look, I mean, Safra Katz, whose title is CEO at Oracle, she was on President Trump's transition team. I mean, I don't know if anybody missed that, but this is no huge surprise that this is where Oracle
was there any outrage about that at that time?
No. I mean, Oracle's been consistent. This is not Salesforce. This is not a Mark Benioff brand where he's out to save the world and rescue puppies, right? This is Larry Ellison. He doesn't rescue puppies, right? He
drowns them. No.
He buys Hawaiian Islands. I'm not saying that, but he buys Hawaiian Islands. Right? This is like the prototype for Tony Stark in the Marvel movies.
It's one thing to be an amoral executive. In other words, you don't take a moral stance on something that's political. It's another thing, I think, for a company that, as a policy, says we don't pick a political candidate, we don't endorse specific candidates. And also, as a leader, I think you just want to stay apolitical so that you don't alienate, in this day and age, one part of your workforce. So I think holding a fundraiser, I don't think it's necessary, and I think it does cause bad press.
You think no corporate executive should be holding a fundraiser?
I think Soul Cycle too, same kind of backlash.
I just think you can quietly lobby in a way that's effective, that delivers the interests of the company, which is, after all, what he's all about, without getting everyone or a certain part of the company upset at you, and in a certain part of the company who cheers you for the support of that. I just think it's a lightning rod whenever you go and support and raise money for a specific party or candidate. Now, look, he raised money for Bill Clinton.
Yeah,
he raised money for Democrats, so he's never been afraid of this. But I just think it's just, you can do without, you can be as effective through lobbying.
You could, but you said lightning rod. That's Larry Ellison. Is anybody saying, I never expected this from
How could he do something so bold?
He's doing what's best for Oracle.
Right.
I'm shocked, right?
And that's what you think it is? He just views this as almost a purely like, look, I hold this fundraiser, it's going to benefit the company, you know.
Look how Oracle sues. Look how Oracle lobbies. Look how Oracle does M&A. Oracle's about Oracle.
Yeah.
All right.
And they've got a case in front of the DOJ right now, which couldn't hurt.
That's an excellent point. Well put. And we talked about Apple a moment ago, so let's go to this one. The company is reportedly considering letting users choose default iPhone programs that belong to a third party or not necessarily one of Apple's, I think, 38 pre-installed apps. As somebody who recently converted to Microsoft Outlook's app, which I never thought I would do because
there's an app.
Yes, and it is wonderful, and I love it. Yes, as opposed to the default, because they updated iOS, and then the trash button is where the reply button used to be, John. It was driving me crazy. I kept deleting stuff I was trying to answer.
So that's why you never read all my emails.
Exactly.
They were going in the trash.
I accidentally deleted them,
okay,
Robert.
now I understand.
So a new tech-forward Kelly Evans.
You know, I'm on TikTok. What is the significance of this, really? Because for them, it would be a big deal to let anyone kind of have those inroads.
It would be hugely significant because a lot of the people in Apple's ecosystem have complained that there's a toll for certain things and then just certain areas, certain features features you can't access. So Siri integration is one of those things. Apple tends to tie in its own services and apps very tightly to Siri. If you ask for a song to play, it hasn't been as easy to get that to play from Spotify, for example. Sonos has been walled off to some extent, though now that's getting more and more open. So if Apple starts seeing its services the way it looked at the iPod long ago as an entity unto itself that should allow access to all kinds of things, it'll be interesting to see what business model builds around that. They've taken some steps in that direction lately with building a kind of Apple's TV app into third-party TVs, including Samsung. If they took it in this direction, it would be a very big deal and a shift in trajectory for Apple and have a huge impact on the ecosystem.
Do you think it's because they're trying to avoid antitrust concerns down the road, or because they think it's good for business?
There's investigation now, right? So no coincidence. Do you think that blunts the efforts to?
Because that's how they got Microsoft.
Are they
back
heading
in the day.
off? Are they heading off the existing investigation? And will it help?
I don't know that I think the antitrust argument against Apple is that strong. Right? Because all kinds of big stores have their own brands that they sell in a store that they give anchor, preferential
remember the Microsoft
treatment.
precedent.
Exactly.
I mean, they ultimately got Microsoft over bundling Internet Explorer with Windows, which doesn't seem like that big of a deal, but was enough to do them in practically.
That was a bit different because it was a tying issue where it automatically went to certain things, and Windows had dominant market share. Apple doesn't have dominant market share in anything except operating systems on their own devices, which are a fraction of the total market. So unless you start defining Apple itself as its own market, even though it has minority share and is kind of a luxury niche, I mean, I'm not a lawyer, but I don't get it yet.
But you did stay at a Holiday Inn Express.
I did stay at a Holiday Inn Express last night.
We'll leave it there, and we thank you all very much. Robert, Kate, and John, that does it for Rapid Fire today.